Since Mario Kart Tour came out recently, I thought it was time to revisit the newest console game, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and try to rank all the tracks. This will be based off how fun the tracks are, how creative the overall design is, and also how they look and sound. So with that, let's get her ranked. 48, Donut Plains 3. It's a pretty basic course. It goes for a swampy environment with lots of mud puddles everywhere. It's about as good as it can get while retaining the original design, but the flatness makes the experience kind of dull. 47, Mario Kart Stadium. You race in a beautiful stadium in the brooding night sky, and it's where anti-gravity is first introduced. The track itself is very simplistic, with one shortcut ramp around the middle, which is a good thing for starting off. But in comparison to the other tracks, this one's pretty forgettable. 46, SNES Rainbow Road. Nintendo sure loves remaking this Rainbow Road, don't they? By far the hardest Super Mario Kart track, the turns are incredibly sharp and the radiating thwomps make the ground nearby them shake. While it was impressive 20 years ago, newer tracks have a lot more to offer, but this is one of the best when it comes to pure simplicity. 45, GBA Mario Circuit. For some reason, Nintendo went wild recreating Super Circuit tracks, because this one uses Ultra Hands to literally lift half the stage in the air. Yeah, this is a toy Nintendo actually manufactured in the 1960s, so it's strange seeing this referenced. Its inclusion adds some much needed excitement to an otherwise flat track. 44, Ice Outpost. As much as I love Mario Kart 8's DLC, this one never really grew on me. It takes the same idea as Rainbow Road by splitting the road in half, but instead the ground is icy. While fun can be had switching from the green or yellow path, the slipperiness pushes me away from playing this one. 43, Mario Circuit. This one does a lot more with the anti-gravity by flipping the stage a full 180. Visually it looks stunning, but it doesn't necessarily make for an interesting track. It's a lot of fun going around the sharp turns and building up your purple turbo boost, but there's just not much to this one. 42, Bone Dry Dunes. The name is accurate enough. You zoom through the dry dunes with lots of dry bones walking around. You know, it's kind of funny that they're an obstacle while you can also play as dry bones, now that I think about it. There's some split paths you can take here, there's an interesting gliding section, but the sandy ground makes driving feel a little rough. And honestly, this just kind of feels like another desert track without much for distinction. 41, Baby Park. This is just a loop that you go around 7 times, but something about it is really charming. The music first off is absolutely slapping, there's thousands of things to look at around you, and taking the turns while in anti-gravity makes driving even more hectic than normal. And since the track is so short, you're constantly gonna have to worry about items, and it just makes the whole thing insane. 40, Moo Moo Meadows. You drive around a farm and have to avoid cows. Yeah, we're off to a pretty good start. This is another flattish course, but it has lots of subtle bumps which better immerse you into the farm-like landscape, and you can trick off dirt piles that the Monty Moles make. 39, Excitebike Arena. Again, this is a loop, but what's cool is that it's a little different every time. The ramps and mud appear in different spots, so you're never too sure what's coming up. The landscape kept with the same tone as the NES, which makes it look pretty bland, but the bopping music and constantly tricking off hills is pretty enjoyable. 38, Neo Bowser City. This is a solid track with a good difficulty curve, seeing as the turns are really brisk. And even with the bikes, these turns can be pretty ridiculous in some areas. While there's tons of cool looking neon lights all over the place, the city has this dampish feel to it, and I really don't see how this is Bowser's City anyway, considering the landscape is raining and not lava. 37, Toad's Turnpike. In case you ever wanted to know what it's like to drive go-karts on a real-life highway, this track has a lot of cool elements like riding the walls or tricking off of surfboards, but the biggest issue here is the difficulty. You'd think these giant vehicles could easily run us over, but that's not the case since you can easily avoid them, and that makes the track feel slow at times. 36, Dry Desert. Well, it's not completely dry. The end of the lap has an oasis where you'll dip into the water and trick off some geysers or gaps in the land. It's refreshing to see this and makes this desert track stand out among the others. 35, Sherbet Land. And here's another great take of an ice world. You can choose between driving on the main road or dipping underwater for a chill swim. It's pretty brilliant that they managed to split the roads in this way. It's just too bad most of the driving is clunky due to the ice. 34, Cheese Land. It's nice to see such an underappreciated Super Circuit track brought back, simply because it's so bizarre. You drive on cheese and can even do tricks in the cheese holes on the ground. As cool as this one is, something feels a bit off. I think all the holes in the ground makes the driving feel shakier than it should, if that makes any sense. 33. Cheep Beach, the perfect getaway to avoid paying taxes. Cheep Beach takes you to a few different locales. You're mostly on the beach and dripping around the sea, but the beginning starts you on a bridge, and in the end, you'll cruise through a tropical forest. It's a nice bit of variety, but nothing too crazy. 32. Water Park. This is kind of like if Six Flags were to flood over. You drive in the water for half of this one. Despite my dislike of the water, it's used sparingly enough to warrant a good time, especially when you're in anti-gravity. And of course, there's the end where you fly out and you can see the Ferris wheel in full force, and that really is just something. 31. Yoshi Circuit, and that's taken very literally. The entire road is mapped like an outline of Yoshi. This makes for a surprisingly difficult yet fair course, and the blooming trees and grass look fantastic here. 30. Dolphin Shoals. Even though we're mostly in the water, there are so many cool things going on. We can trick off these water-blowing pipes, we can ride on top of Unagi, and when that jazz hits you after leaving the water, oh man, there is nothing quite like it. 29. Sweet Canyon. If you ever wanted to be the candy, then this track is a treat. You're either riding across a large variety of pastries, or down a split road with the most delicious sweets in your sight. They even made the Cheering Toad's little ginger man. That's such a nice little detail. 28. Royal Raceway. There really is a royal vibe to be felt with all the confetti flying through the air. The difficulty is just right, and the huge jump at the end was practically made for gliders. Although we can't go to Peach's Castle anymore like in the original, the roads are wider, which makes the turns more enjoyable to careen across. 27. Twisted Mansion. It really doesn't get creepier than driving through a flooded castle that's twisting in all directions. The setting is nailed just right thanks to the chilling music and depressing night sky. There's even a shortcut near the beginning where you can drive through a library. This is a ghost-themed track done right. 26. Rainbow Road. I've slowly grown to like this Rainbow Road. The main gimmick is the path splits in half, and we're located in a space station, as you'll see at the end of the lap, as well as the middle with these green and red arrow paths. The split path concept works well here, although I still feel like the envelope of creativity really could have been pushed farther. 25. DK Jungle. It's hard not to go bananas when you can bounce off flowers and say hi to the hopping tiki heads. DK Jungle moves at a mile a minute. 1 second you're deep in the jungle, then you're in some ancient pyramid, and then you're flying through the air against screaming pillars. Holy crap! 24. Yoshi Valley. If you want to know what it's like driving through a country road, it's kind of like this. There's several paths, you don't know where you're going, and the country tunes accompany this mood perfectly. The multiple paths add a lot of variety to each race too. 23. Grumble Volcano. The volcano is definitely grumbly. The turns are very sharp and rigid, which fits perfectly with the rocky terrain theme. And even cooler, each lap has more and more of the track falling apart and shaking, which makes the experience feel more alive and realistic. 22. Thwomp Ruins. This is what Mario's Time Machine should have looked more like. You cruise the remains of some sort of ancient Thwomp temple, and in several areas you can ride on the wall. The environment has this very intriguing yet desolate look, and the track itself is pretty solid. 21. Animal Crossing. This is one of the more basic DLC courses, but its big gimmick is randomly changing seasons each time you play. It's mostly a visual and musical difference, but you'll also notice other small details to how you play as well. And while the design is simple, it actually works pretty well here. 20. Wild Woods. We're put into a forest with humongous trees and lots of rushing water, but instead of the water slowing us down, it actually speeds us up, which is way more fun than you'd expect. And the segment with the moving leaves and speed boost is pretty cool too. The woods here are surprisingly wild. 19. Piranha Plant Slide. Now we're getting to the truly creative courses, with this one themed after pipes. You'll use the rushing water to fly underground and try to avoid the plants, and at the end you'll burst out of the water and soar high into the sky. This level gives you a rush that a lot of tracks simply don't. 18. Toad Harbor. I don't remember Toad ever being into boats, but this small town is a peaceful place based off San Francisco. You'll drive through a bit of traffic and even see cable cars, and you can ride on the walls too and drive through a local market. This track almost feels personalized in a weird way, and the design flows wonderfully as well. 17. Hyrule Circuit, the one and only Legend of Zelda track. So much love was poured into this one, with coins being replaced with rupees and being able to drive through Hyrule Field and Hyrule Castle. Even the piranha plants were replaced with Deku Babas. The Zelda world meshes flawlessly with the Mario world. Courses like this make me want to see even more Nintendo IP step into Mario Kart. 16. Ribbon Road. Boy, did this one get a gnarly upgrade. We tour across some kid's room on a road made entirely of ribbon. This track just brings brings the young spirits out of you. It's basically a kid's imagination brought to life. And the track is really fun to drive around too. The turns move by quickly and there's some wavy sections for a bit of variety. 15. Dragon Driftway. Not only is this course Chinese themed, but it also gives a shout out to Mario Galaxy 2's boss, Gobblegut. This is a very curvy course, which reflects exactly how Gobblegut slithers his body around. There's lots of murals on the wall too. The decorations are just top notch. 14. Wario's Gold Mine. You can't define this one any other way than with the word zany. The slopes are insanely steep. You gotta avoid bats that sweep through the cave, and you're even thrown into anti-gravity and can boost off the mine carts. It's pure zany goodness, through in and throughout. 13. Wario Stadium. This takes the idea of a stadium and flips it on its head. You start by blasting through a normal bike area, but the platforms raise and out of nowhere you're in anti-gravity. Then by the end, the stadium is flooded. This whole track is a really unique take on this general theme. And there's so many ramps and hills to trick off of as well, making the whole race feel fast and frantic. 12. Cloudtop Cruise. Driving on the top of clouds is already a great time, but Cloudtop Cruise takes it a few steps further. You'll also land on an airship and drive straight into a thunderstorm with lightning that can strike down and electrify you. There's a large diversity of track elements, making for an extremely busy and fulfilling course. 11. Shy Guy Falls. This track really brings the idea of anti-gravity to the table, since you can literally drive up a waterfall with accompanying speed boosts. That alone is fantastic, but the rest of the course is solid too, with lots of charming Shy Guys chiming into the music and an overall beautiful landscape. 10. Bowser's Castle. This one is no joke. This is a big boy castle. The rock and instrumental really sets an edgy tone, as well as the hard as nails difficulty. The turns are sharper than ever. There's loads of obstacles like fire bars, rolling rocks, and even a giant stone Bowser that punches the track from side to side. And hey, I even heard this is Shadow the Hedgehog's favorite course. At least that's what he told me. 9. N64 Rainbow Road. By far the most nostalgic track for me, the remake is nothing short of magical. Since this was the longest Mario Kart track of all time, it was just turned into one giant lap, although it feels a bit on the short side. And my god, the road looks ridiculously polished. You got trains dropping coins on you, and of course the chain chomps make an appearance but now hop around and give the track some waves. 8. Super Bell Subway. I think we've all had the urge to explore the dark and ominous tunnels in a rail station, and that urge can finally be released. Super Bell Subway has you cruising down a very narrow path while avoiding trains from all sorts of directions. What's really cool is you can even ride on top of them if you take a higher path. This is a very surreal and interesting track. 7. Electrodrome. For those in the mood for a nightclub to jam with some Koopas and Shy Guys, this course is nothing short of dazzling. The entire road is jacked up with fancy lights, and on some parts of the road, you leave this electronic debris behind you. To top it off, the track design is really thrilling to drive through. 6. Music Park. If you like good bangers, this is the place for you. Music Park not only has a great musical piece, but the road literally plays with the music when you go over the piano or the xylophone as an example. You also bounce off drums and have to avoid these giant music notes. And the best part, of course, is the head-bopping piranha plants. I mean, come on, this track is freaking sick. 5. Tick-Tock Clock. This has always been such a classic. There's nothing better than driving in a clock-themed world. All the obstacles operate the same as a clock normally does, like the gears and minute hands, and they still pulled off a freakishly fun level. And the music uses some really weird sounds too, which fits wonderfully with the course. 4. Mount Wario. There's been a lot of snowy mountain levels in Mario Kart, but nothing comes even close to Mount Wario. You start on the top of a mountain and slowly transition into an icy cave. While I'm not a fan of the icy roads, it's so brief that you barely notice it, and right after that you drive into a water dam, then back to the fix of the mountain, and finally you're on what's basically a ski slope with the crowd cheering you on. And somehow, with all of this happening, the course still manages to be tons of fun to drive on too. 3. Mute City. This is the closest we've gotten to F-Zero in HD, and my god, this is beyond excellent. There's speed boosts all over the place, so you're constantly moving fast, and you're always in anti-gravity, which makes it more likely you'll boost off other players. Even the recharge pathways give you coins. That is an ingenious way to implement the coins instead of just throwing them on the field somewhere. 2. Sunshine Airport. Personally, I don't really like airports due to expensive parking, long lines, and going through security. But this track somehow takes all the best aspects of an airport and makes something way more exciting than it deserves to be. In one lap, you go through an airport hallway, to boxes on conveyor belts, through an airplane, and flying on tilted ramps so you can watch airplanes take off. This is such a satisfying track to play through. And 1 is Big Blue. It's funny how an F-Zero themed track ended up at number 1. This is basically Mute City, but 10 times better. The music is still epic, and there's still loads of speed boosts and recharge pathways, but Big Blue has rushing water to make things faster, a much more varied and wonky designed track, and the whole thing is one huge lap. Quite frankly, this might be the best Mario Kart track of all time. I don't even know how they could top this. The challenge with this video is that all these stages are pretty fun, so trying to pick apart the best or the worst was no easy feat. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Until next time.